Let's please give a warm welcome to our chairman, Mr. Fred Anton.
Thank you, Loman. Thank you, Loman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this conference. At this point in my career, which is fading, what I would like to do is stand up here and make some innocuous remarks, show you the program, which I am very proud of, and as I say to you every year, keep this program, refer to it. The speakers here are a who's who of conservative activists in Pennsylvania. But I could talk about the founding of the Leadership Conference, give you a history of why the five of us who were instrumental in founding it felt that it was necessary to have another vehicle to promote policies, conservative policies, other than the Republican Party. And I will do that at the end of my talk if it does not go on too long and my son does not give me the signal to sit down. Things have not been going well as far as electing Republicans in Pennsylvania, particularly at the statewide level. I want to call to your attention during the last election, when President Obama was reelected, there were 4 statewide elections in Pennsylvania, 1 for the United States Senate and 3 for row offices. 4 Democrats won those offices. The only 2 of what I consider the top tier of our elected leaders in Pennsylvania, the governor, the 2 senators, and the 3 row offices, only 2 of those individuals are Republicans. Now, very fortunately, the 2 individuals are going to have major speaking roles here today. The 2 individuals are conservatives, but as a result of some things which are not completely understandable, they're having more difficulty and may be likely to have more difficulty in their reelection efforts. Governor Corbett, of course, in 2014, and Senator Toomey in 2016. Now, we are interested in conservative policies, and I very sharply delineate my evaluation of conservative policies into 3 separate groups. The first group is economic policies. The second group is social policies, and the third group is foreign policy. Now, as far as I am concerned, probably the most unity among we conservatives is in the area of economic policy. As far as my public participation in the political process, the area which I am concerned with is almost exclusively economic policy. At the PMA, we do not have policies on abortion. We do not have policies on gay marriage. We do not have policies on gun rights. But we do have policies and are working in detail on economic policies. Now, this will be the only time that I will have an opportunity to address this group, and I feel very emotional about our leaders and how conservative they are on economic policies. And I start with Governor Corbett. I supported Sam Rohr in the Republican primary. The reason I supported Sam Rohr was I knew where Sam Rohr stood. I did not know where Tom Corbett stood. All I knew about Tom Corbett was what he had to say about those policies. He did not have the conservative record that Sam Rohr had. Over the last 2 years, I have come to believe that Governor Corbett is every bit as much of a conservative on economic policies as Sam Rohr. And I believe, and let me just go through a few points about the record of Governor Corbett. Governor Corbett's accomplishments, which I will gloss over, of balancing the budget in these difficult times without gimmickry, without huge borrowing, is a huge accomplishment. And in my judgment, much of the decline in the polls of Governor Corbett is because of some cuts in programs which had to be made, to balance the budget in view of the deficit that was left by Governor Rendell. And I also think Governor Corbett has gotten a bad rap for cutting secondary education when he hasn't cut secondary education, but they have $4 billion less to spend because of the federal stimulus money having gone away. So as far as I am concerned, Governor Corbett has exceeded my expectations. And quite frankly, he's not had the enthusiastic support of the legislature. They are very sensitive to cuts in spending because it angers various constituencies. But the thing that I admire Governor Corbett most for is his policies having to do with the Marcellus Shale. The Marcellus Shale has been recognized by Governor Corbett as once in 100 or even once in 1,000 year opportunity to change the landscape of Pennsylvania. I believe the policies of Governor Corbett are likely to create, if properly continued and implemented, an industrial revolution in Pennsylvania. Compare where Pennsylvania is in a position to attract industry, particularly after they get pipelines in and they get the cracker plant up, compared with the state of New York. Imagine if we had a governor like Como who was fiddling around because of unnecessary environmental concerns and did not seize this opportunity. We have done more in Pennsylvania to position ourselves on the Marcellus Shale than any state. The development of natural gas in the United States has a capacity to make the United States truly energy independent. Now, I also believe that the three issues that Governor Corbett has selected, liquor store sale, fixing the roads and bridges, and pension reform, I believe he's on the right track on all of these issues. We need to support Tom Corbett. We don't need The last thing in the world we need is some fringe candidate challenging Governor Corbett. I knew I was going to do that. I'm still at a time when Governor Thornburg was governor. We can't form a circle of conservatives and start firing at each other. And now I move to a man who has my greatest esteem and who is going to be the kickoff speaker, and that being Senator Toomey. Senator Toomey has done amazing things in just 2 years in the United States Senate. And what I said about the niggling criticism, perhaps, of Corbett applies many-fold to Pat Toomey, because I knew, and we all knew, that Pat Toomey was a rock-ribbed economic conservative long before he was elected to the United States Senate. And the revival of this conference is directly related to Pat Toomey's challenge of Arlen Specter in the 2004 Republican primary. And from 2004 on, Pat Toomey has been one of the principal speakers at this annual gathering, and he has energized the audience in many cases when we had very little to energize it. We had Governor Rendell, and we had two branches of the legislature in Republican control playing ball with Governor Rendell. And Pat Toomey was one who was willing to step in when we had candidates, we had conservative candidates in John Eichelberger and Mike Fulmer to challenge Bob Jubileer and Chip Bright-Bill. And Pat was one who endorsed them when the Republican leaders, even though these Senate leaders had not followed conservative policies, were endorsing them. And I thank Pat for that. And Pat has been truly a hero of the conservative movement. After losing to Arlen Specter, he worked for the Club for Growth for the intervening years before he ran for the United States Senate, and recruited and financed conservative Republican candidates nationally. Now, Pat, since he's been in the Senate, has distinguished himself. He was selected to be one of the group of 8 to try and solve the budgetary and the fiscal cliff policies, and this was almost unheard of for a freshman Republican senator, and he was chosen because of his economic and fiscal knowledge, and he distinguished himself in that role and played a major role in what not everyone agrees with me on, which is in coming to compromises to move ahead, preserve most of the Bush tax cuts, and also at least get some reduction in spending with the sequestration, which seems to have impacted with very, very little disruption, and that may very well continue because it really wasn't that much money. Pat recently has been involved in trying to broker a deal in the gun area, in the area of gun owners' rights. I know that many of you are solid gun owners and do not want any attack to the constitutional Second Amendment. You're quite right. But the area in which Pat was trying to compromise had to do with background checks. And as a matter of fact, what he was proposing nationally is less strict than the background checks we currently have in Pennsylvania. Pat Toomey deserves your support. The scurrilous, vitriolic attacks on Pat Toomey because of disagreement on this social issue are totally unwarranted. People have a right to disagree. Sometimes people will disagree. And when someone is doing what Pat is doing, which is trying to be on the cutting edge of solving problems, he deserves our support. Thank you very much.